going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Beaufort Zone podcast. I'm very excited today. I got my very first interview. I got a friend of mine, a former wrestler I used to wrestle against in high school. Goes by the name of Keenan Jackson. What's going on, Keenan?
What's up, y'all?
What's up, man? Keenan's now an MMA fighter, man. I'm glad to have you here, man.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
So what's going on? How's it going?
It's been pretty good. Just got in yesterday. It's been like a year since I've been back home. Just soaking it all in.
So okay, we're gonna start with the wrestling. Like when you were a wrestler, right?
Yeah.
Did you actually know from there you wanted to be an MMA fighter, or is it something that happened once your high school wrestling career ended,
Oh yeah. So when I started wrestling in 7th grade, and then right around the same time, I had already liked fighting.
Right.
I like karate type fighting, and MMA was just starting. So when I started wrestling, ironically, me and my dad started watching UFC fights during that weekend, and on the weekends, and then I knew that year that was the avenue I wanted to take. But I always knew I wanted to fight.
Right.
I just didn't know what style or boxing or karate or how to get to it. But when I saw the UFC, we started watching it, I knew then. So it was after my first year wrestling, I knew I was gonna be an MMA fighter and after wrestling.
Okay. And the crazy story I told you I had before we came on the air was that we had this little it wasn't a tournament, it was a get together, all the local schools went to Beaufort High and wrestled. You were the first person, because I wrestled in 11th grade my first year.
Yeah. And
it's funny because you're an MMA fighter now. You were the first person I ever wrestled that wasn't in my school.
Oh, wow.
And so we had that little 3-person group, and we were doing moves and everything.
Yeah.
My coach was like, "Hey, man, you got Keenan in your group, man. You better be careful." I was like, "Man, I don't know. Kids don't try to be on guard." But I don't know none of the moves. We learned the moves at this little get-together, man. And it's stuff that I ain't never learned yet. We practicing on each other. We doing 30-second, matches real quick. Yeah, intervals and stuff like that, man. And I was like, man, bad. And that kind of got me in my head a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So I had a bad start to wrestling. Because I had you first. And then my first actual match ever was against a kid from Georgia, and I got pinned in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And come to find out, he was the Georgia state champ.
Yeah. So
and I was like, nobody warned me nothing, because in practice it's so casual.
Mm-hmm.
So once you got into the match, it's just full tip, it's like a real life fight. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was a little casual.
You're gonna be a little light. Yeah.
He shot straight off the whistle, and took off. And I was like, and I was like, that's bad. And it's funny because now my last year, my fastest pin was 16 seconds.
Okay.
So it was kind of crazy, man. So
that's dope.
Back into you. So when did you? Okay, so you moved. Did you join the military?
I did. I joined the Air Force Reserves halfway through college.
Right.
So I actually joined to help pay for schooling because I went to a pretty expensive private school in Iowa.
Okay.
But their wrestling was great. So yeah, I just joined the Air Force. Next February will be 4 years. So 4 years ago.
All right. So when was your first time in the ring? How did you get there? When did you get into the training to get ready for that?
My first time in the ring or first time training?
Well, we're gonna start with your first time training. Let's go training. When did you start the training? How you were to get in the ring? I'm really going to get in the ring, not just training just because, but I'm going to get in the ring.
Okay.
In a couple months, so
Yeah, that was, I would say, because I took a year off and I went back to Iowa, and then so after that year, that's when I joined. I had started training MMA after wrestling season. So my first year at this new school at Grandview, after this wrestling season was over, we had a guy named Josh Neer. Shout out to Josh. He kind of just took me under his wing because he would come to the wrestling practice, but he's a UFC veteran.
Okay.
And me and him banged it out a couple of times wrestling, but I didn't know who he was at the time, MMA. And so he told me, it pretty much took me under his wing and took me to his gym, and I just started training there, off season. Then I joined the military, and then Josh was gave me a call during my training. He was like, "Hey, we got you a fight lined up if you want to take it." Right? Did I have the first fight? No, yeah. I was still training. He was like, "We got you a fight lined up, but a guy that's 0-0."
Right.
And he was like, "Do you want?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then I just took it. I just took the fight. So I was already training, but when I took that fight, I guess, you know, you got more serious with it because the fight game is all random. You know, it's not like a set season.
Yeah, it's basically like, I don't know, like from paying attention to fights from like UFC and boxing, it's usually like whenever you're ready to go. Because there's some guys, like, they might take a year or two between fights. Yeah. And there's some guys that might be 6 months, and then like the real crazy one, maybe, and probably when they're young. Yeah. Do it like 3, they'll turn around and fight. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of training that goes into that. You know what I'm saying? Which is cool. So what league did you go to a different league? Like, are you in more, like, did you start in one and then a different one?
Well, yeah, that's the thing with fight, like with mixed martial arts, you can pretty much fight for any league, you know what I'm saying? Right. Unless you sign a contract that says you cannot fight for another league, then you're good. And then usually if you do sign a contract, because I signed a contract with VFC, and legally I can go fight for another organization, but they just have to approve of the opponent, you know? Right. And that's kind of like what the UFC is doing now, and Bellator. Like, they're letting these guys, you know, the lower end guys go out so they can stay active. Right. You know, because then they're not getting fights, or they're not going to want to be part of that promotion. Part of that league. Yeah. So, yeah, it's like lenient now. You kind of fight anywhere.
Okay, so speaking of UFC, what do you think of what's going on in the UFC right now? How do you feel about Daniel Cormier, like his legacy right now?
I have love-hate feelings about Daniel.
Right.
He acts like a baby sometimes, but you know, he's a champ. You know, and I was actually watching that fight, and then I was undecided. You know, you guys, the people I was hanging out with that night. Right. I was like, Stipe, I don't know, Stipe's big, this and that, and I was like, Daniel. And I started, you know, really analyzing. And I was like, well, he's shorter than him, and I was like, Stipe's not gonna really out wrestle him. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know, just because he's just too shorter than him. Daniel's wrestling is way better. And then and I was like, well, Stipe's got that reach. That's all he's got to do is keep him there. Right. Problem is, since Daniel's so small and compact, he's going to get in close. You know, all you got to do is slip, you know, that 1 or that 1-2, and then he's already in. And I was like, DC's going to win this fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at it, like, you can ask, I swear, you can ask people I was hanging with, like, before they touched the gloves, I called it. I said, DC's going to win this. And then he was getting tagged, but then I knew, because, you know, Stipe was kind of backing him up. He was throwing that 1-2. And it looked like DC was taking a lot of damage. Really, he was just trying to gauge that range, you know? Right. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get a feel for when to get in and when to get out. And then I noticed Stipe caught him with a good 1-2, hit him with that 1-2, and that 2 cracked him a little bit. Right. And DC looked at him and just shook his head. And that was DC letting him know, like, I just took one of your best punches. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah.
And is that a thing in MMA, like probably like taking a hit just to get in?
Kinda, yeah.
Like, you don't want to take a big hit now, I know that, but I'm just saying.
It's weird. Not necessary. You don't do it purposely, but you can just tell when you took somebody's good shot and it didn't really faze you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you took it and you was like, all right, let's go. Because I was like, in one fight, I was hit. This dude hit me with like a hook, and like it stunned me because it was shocking. Like, I didn't really see it, but he hit me, and I just kind of stood there and looked, and I just shook my head, and I was like, nah, you know what I'm saying? But he knew, and I knew, like, that was a big shot, and it didn't really affect me. You know?
So he thought he was good. He was like, he stopped. Is he good? Is he good? And then he just kept walking. It was like, did he just shrug my head off?
Yeah. So
that's crazy. So have you been knocked down yet?
Yeah, I'm training. I know, like, when I was younger, this one guy, he hit me with like a spinning back fist, and like I remember my hands just like dropping and like I was wobbling. And I was just like, stop.
You know, a question about that, like, how fast are those, like, in real life, like with MMA? Because like from the outside watching it, like me listening to you, like you're talking about fighting film wise. You know, breaking it down like I would talk to someone or a teammate about football, because that's where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? So, like, watching it on film is like, yo, how do you get hit with that? It seems like it takes, but, like, in real life, like, when you're fighting someone who does that move, like, is it really, like, that fast, a spinning back fist?
Yeah, it's real fast, but it's all about timing, too. Like, a lot of it's, you know, you're just gauging. So you're just, the move itself is not, like, super, super fast, but the timing of when I'm telling my body to go, and when this person is like at a certain distance, you know, he's like right here, and I'm timing him to get there, but I'm telling my mind, all right, we need to throw this strike now. You know, that's what makes it look fast. You know what I'm saying? But don't get me wrong, like if you got boxers, that's what boxers is always working on: speed, because they just want it to be a natural reaction. Like they see it and their brain not even thinking about it. Yeah. But MMA, it's a little less because you got to focus on so much more. But that's the same concept. You know, you want to get it to where it's just kind of like a reaction, just like wrestling. You know, reaction.
And wrestling was cool, man. I had fun when I was wrestling in high school. We just changed coaches so many times. Like I only wrestled for 2 years, but I basically had, outside of like the team that we had was like usually like 2 or 3 coaches, but I had like 3 head coaches in like 2 years, which is crazy because we came in.
That was at Creek, huh?
Yeah, and I thought it was gonna be well, cause I think it was Cox and Day was the main 2 there.
Those are the coaches,
right? And then Coach Cox went to Well Branch.
Okay. Yeah.
When they opened up before 11th grade. And Coach Day, he retired for a little bit to kind of follow his son around because his son was graduated the same year I did.
Yeah.
So he wanted to follow his son, go to all his games and stuff like that. So he retired. So then we got Kimry because we thought it was going to be David, wound up being Kimry.
Yeah.
So Kimry was the coach, and he was pretty decent, but I think he was kind of it was like a rumor he was kind of obsessed with like coaching back home. Like he wanted to be like at Lugoff Elgin. You know, he was from Irmo, but he wanted to wrestle like Lugoff. And his family, like, wrestled from Dutch Fork, and, like, it was kind of like a whole, you know what I'm saying, thing up there about back home or whatever. So he did that, and he wound up leaving for that. And then we didn't have a coach at the time. It was like an interim thing. And we had Coach Schumann, and Coach Schumann kind of just, you know, filled the role. He wasn't a wrestler coach, but he's like, we need a head coach.
Yeah.
So, and Coach Sanchez was, I mean, he was the assistant principal, and I think they dropped the rule that, like, principals or ADs can't coach or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
So he couldn't really be the head coach, you know what I'm saying? So Schumann stepped in, and he tried to do his best and was learning or whatever. It's like an interim thing. And then finally, Coach Day wound up coming back kind of towards the end and coaching us for a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, it was back and forth, man, and it was just like,
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah, Coach, and I wish I had Coach Day the whole time, man.
Yeah.
He was legendary, man. That's like, Coach Day is like, I guess was it Demute?
Yeah, Coach Demute.
I know he was there for a long time, and he just retired too.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
that's both. That's 2 legendary coaches from our schools going down at the same time, man. It was a good match, man. I think my record. The only person I remember wrestling from back then. I didn't wrestle my junior year because I got in trouble. Okay. I was Tyreek was wrestling or whatever. We was at Beaufort High. Yeah. And Tyreek was wrestling, and before his match, you know, Tyreek used to jump.
Oh yeah, he used to.
So and I was being a funny and I was being a funny guy, and you guys were wrestling. I think y'all were wrestling. Was it Brent? Y'all wrestling somebody. I forgot who was there, and we were on the other mat, and we were wrestling Stratford.
Okay.
And so I saw him jump behind us because I was looking back at the match. And Coach Day was a big, like, you focus on your match. Don't be looking at nobody else's, you know, whatever. Right. So I'm in the chair. It's not my turn. And I saw him jump. So I was like, everybody could do that. And I jumped just to be funny on the other side. And he got mad and he sent me to the bus. Damn. It was hilarious. Plus, I didn't wrestle people. I wrestled my senior year, I wrestled Tyreek. And it was a cool thing. It was fun because it's like so much hype into me wrestling Tyreek. Right. Like, oh man, you got Tyreek this week. You ready? Like, and I'm like, man, I ain't really tripping, man. This is wrestling, you know what I'm saying? And then it was funny because I wrestled him, and I remember one time I got they put so much hype into it, so I'm I'm going into it like deer in headlights.
That last name, like
man. So I'm going into it like deer in headlights, and I go ahead and I'm wrestling. And he kept trying to get his move in on me, and I forgot what it's called, but he was in the down position, and he'd be on the side, and he had one leg locked in, and he kept trying to grab my head and like roll. I don't forgot what it was, but he kept trying to grab my head, and I wouldn't let him get my head. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people were shocked about that he couldn't get that move in because that was his go-to move. But I remember I got up one time, and he wound up being on the ground, and I was shocked, and I just looked at him, and I was supposed to just hop on him, you know what I'm saying, and I would have got my 2 points. Right. But I never hopped on him. I just looked at him. And then he got up, and then I wound up losing like 5-3 later on in the match. I'm like,
Yeah, Tyreek tough, man. He'll run with you.
It was a fun guy, man. It was crazy because it was like, I don't know, it was like, it's weird. I had an up and down career. Like that, I think that was the problem when I was wrestling. Like I wasn't consistent with it.
Got to
So it was like when I'd have a good stretch, like I'd wrestle a good opponent, and I wrestle real well, and then I play like some trash dude, wrestle some trash dude, and like wrestle like trash.
It happens, man.
It's on and off, man.
My first few years, bro, was like that, up and down, but when I got to like 10th, 11th grade, it was just all the way up.
Yeah, man, you just kept going with it, and I couldn't do that. Yeah. I couldn't do it. My mom wouldn't want me to wrestle when I was younger, and I wanted to do it so bad, and it was crazy. It was funny because she thought when I said I wanted to wrestle, she thinking like WWE.
Oh yeah.
When I told her, I was like, no, we just
school, yeah.
We just what we do in the room when we playing around like kids. We just wrestling, you know what I'm saying, on the ground or whatever. Yeah. And she didn't want me to wrestle. So Coach Cox finally was talking her into it, whatever, to let me do it that summer. That he wound up going to a branch. Okay. And then, so I wound up coming in, but I got into it because there's a kid named I think his name was James. I know his last name was Owens. I think it was James. But he came in. He was in 8th grade, and he was wrestling at the high school at Battery Creek. Okay. And me and him was cool, and he always wanted me to do it all the time, and I couldn't do it. My mom wouldn't let me. She wasn't with it. Right. She's like, nah, like I let you play football. I ain't never wanted you to go in the military or play football, and I let you play football. Yeah, I ain't even about to wrestle too. This and that. Yeah. Just doing it. I'm like, okay, all right. It took like 3 years to convince her to let me do it. So it is what it is, man. So so you got a belt now. I peeped that too.
Oh yeah.
What is that? You got 2?
Yeah. I won a title belt in Arizona. In California for a Fight Book MMA, and that was like we did a little. It was the second season of a national championship, kind of like wrestling, but for MMA. So we had teams. It was state versus state, and so we won that. And, I had a title fight that night, but what it was is my opponent backed out, and so that fight wasn't for the team points. So they bumped me up to the main amateur event, and it made it a title fight. I actually didn't know it was a title fight until I was walking out there and they announced it. So I was like, no pressure. Right.
That was cool. Like you just did it. No pressure. You wouldn't even worry about it, man. Yeah. I'm cooling, man.
Yeah.
I'm cooling, man. Minding my business. Oh, this is title. Oh, man. Okay. I don't think I would have prepared differently, but my mind would have been in a whole different state.
At that point, I was still ready for it.
All right. That's cool, man. And it was cool. It was cool watching it. Because I remember the first one the first one you posted, and then you posted another one. I'm watching the lights go up and how everybody just gravitated towards it, kind of like you fighting, and I'm like, that's a dope thing, and it's crazy. It is weird seeing how a lot of people talk about going into MMA, right, but don't really do it, and then they turn around and actually see you in the ring. Because the most they do is they go to Omni and they train a little bit at Omni, and then but they don't never do anything else. You don't never see any videos or anything. They don't keep going.
That's a lot of people are, man. A lot of people. The idea of fighting sounds nice, It's something you can tell a girl you're talking to or whatever, But it's a whole different story. Really trying to live it, because fighting is a poor man's sport. Coach told me that in Texas. He was like, fighting is a poor man's sport, and that's the dream, to make it, If you make it, you're not poor no more. Right. So that's why the select few that do it, what I'm saying, is what we really fighting for. It's not just fighting in the ring, it's also fighting outside of the ring, because I moved to Albuquerque, but it looks good. Everything I post and shit look good, but it's completely different outside of the gym, Life is completely different. I could be sitting comfortably at home, working a little job or, full-time military, but no, I chose to fight.
So you're at the point where are you getting paid enough now to take MMA full-time?
No.
No? Oh, okay. I was say, hey man, you made it a little bit. I wish I could play football full-time, or something right there, man. I still got to go to work.
Yeah, I still got a long ways to go, man.
Okay, and how big? I know the big I guess it's big because there's more than one kind of successful league with the UFC and the Bellator and all that. But at this level, probably guys going to local gyms or whatever, how big is the scene per se as far as fighting goes?
Compared to what?
To because you got guys in there just working around. It's easy to get hey, let's go to the gym and play basketball and get like get 10 guys and go run, full court.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, in this area, like how, I guess like how many people. Yeah, how big is it? Like, but kind of just here in Beaufort.
Like here or where you're at now.
Well, I mean, where I'm at, it's like, it's like the leading place for fighting.
Right.
I'm at the best gym in the world. The best MMA gym in the world.
Okay.
So you got guys that come from other fighting camps just to come train there.
What's the name of it?
It's Jackson Wink MMA.
Okay.
Yeah, but so the MMA scene there is big, but MMA as a whole is still relatively small. But they just signed a deal with like ESPN Plus or something like that to start streaming the fights on ESPN. And then you got McGregor who just fought like Mayweather. So it's growing, but still as a sport, it's still relatively small. The MMA community in the UFC, like pretty much everybody's connected with everybody. Like the UFC's roster is only like 300 people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got a few, 7 men weight classes, 3 women's weight classes. Everybody knows everybody.
Right.
Like it's not that big. But like I said, on TV it looks big, but everybody, in a way it's good because everybody knows who's who.
Right.
Because of that, but it's still small, man. That's why I had to make the move because it's even smaller here in Beaufort.
It is. It is small, man. I remember when like I said, the idea was like when people want to fight, they go to Omni.
Yeah.
So they go ahead and they go to Omni. You go look over there. And there's like a couple guys. I know like people just got off work.
Right.
And like when you look over there, you don't really. And I'm not saying you could judge somebody by how they look, but someone who like really like fights and trains, they're most likely like cut up. So it's like an exception, a few people who still got weight on them or whatever out of shit. And you go over there and it looks like people that are just over there having fun, or people who have their little kids trying to train them to fight while they're little and stuff like that. And it just looks like a group of people, but it doesn't. I never really see like there's like 4 or 5 like fighters over there really like training, going hard. You know what I'm saying?
You got to get out, man. It's like nothing against Beaufort because this is where I started at. This is the foundation of like my jiu-jitsu is at. But to expand, you have to get out. And like that's just it. I always tell people, I was like, when you go looking for a personal trainer, for fitness, you want to look for the person that you want to be looking like, the trainer that looks like where you want to get. That's fit, abs, cut up, muscles, all that.
Right.
That's what you look for. You don't go looking for a trainer that's just showing up to collect the check,
Right. You got to show somebody that looks like they're probably still training right now.
Exactly. So that point being made is that they're doing it and they're also teaching it, So that's how I feel I get when I'm in Albuquerque, like my coaches and teammates, they're fighting, but they're also still teaching, even at the Gracie's gym, like Tusa and Barada, like they're still like competing,
Right.
And like Barada was in the UFC, still is, so it's like they're still fighting, but they're black belts, so they're still teaching and they're active, they're always learning. It's a lifestyle for them. I guess that's the difference, It's a lifestyle for them, and like if you want to make it a lifestyle, you got to surround yourself by people that want to do that same thing.
So how many like big name UFC guys have you met?
There's a lot at the gym. John Jones, Mike Perry, Don Cerrone, John Dodson, Holly Holm, Karate the Hottie. I actually met Alexander Houston in Savannah. Carlos Condit, Alistair Overeem, Keith Jardine. Then when I was in ATT, I met Johanna. Who else did I meet while I was down there?
So you done met a good bit.
Yeah, I mean,
you'll
see them.
Yeah. Was it like a deer in the headlights moment, or like a?
No, not usually.
The first time, like you ever like you walk in the gym and there's like 2 like big name people in there. Was it a big name like a deer in the headlights moment, where you just like,
not really. Just kept it.
There's so and so.
Yeah, kind of chill and relax. I mean, everybody wants to get a picture. See, that's the thing. Like some people hate on it. Like people that train all the time, they'll be like, there's, but it's like when you are a fan of the sport,
right?
You know what I'm saying? Of course you want to, get starstruck a little bit, but you got to think about it too. They see that all the time. You know, just be chill about it and, you know, talk to them when you can talk to them because they get a lot of attention. But like I said, I was a fan before, you know, anybody else who knew who I was. Like me and my dad was in the living room watching, you know, all these people, like all watching everybody. I was just telling them about it. It's just crazy to even be around them now. And it's like we used to talk about it and joke about it.
It's crazy how that turn around.
Yeah.
And back to that's really what I wanted to talk about when I mentioned Daniel Cormier's legacy. And you said John Bo's name again as someone you met. Like when it comes to him fighting John Bones Jones, how do you feel like that? Because he fought him and he lost. He lost both times, right? Yeah. But the suspensions, the doping, and all that stuff like that. So do you feel like that played a big role? Because I don't think it was like. To me, I don't feel like it was performance enhancing. I think he was probably smoking or, you know, doing drugs, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So do you feel like it matters? Does it affect? Will you just continue to 2 losses on his record, or will that be like Michael Jordan's last 2 years in Washington? Like nobody really talks about that.
Nah, he definitely like beat Cormier, and I say that because if you look at the fights and you look at their interaction and how they talk and all that social media, there's an old term in wrestling. They said, don't get big brother.
Right.
And John Jones big brother DC mentally. DC will never beat Jones no matter what Jones is doing.
Right.
Cocaine or PED, you know what I'm saying? If DC did all that stuff, he will never beat Jones because Jones just got, like I say, big brother.
Right.
Mentally, it's just in his head.
And that's in his genes, man. It's crazy how like he's a fighter now because he's like a brother in the NFL.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then he's in MMA, and then there's another brother. I forgot where he's at. I think it's like 3 of them.
I think 2 of them in the NFL.
2 of them in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy though. But yeah, it was he's such a long guy, and I was like, I remember when he just like kicked him, just like straight up kick in the face. I was like, that's just disrespectful.
Yeah,
he just kicked nobody in the face, man. Like a straight kick, not a side kick, nothing. Just like straight, just long, just straight down the middle in his face. I'm like, man, that's disrespectful. Yeah. How you gonna do that to somebody? So what's the next move for you? Like, what are you? Like, you got a fight coming up, like, soon?
I got nothing lined up, man. Right now, all I've been doing is focusing more on my jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And just trying to, you know, earn my purple belt. You know, just I humble myself and become a student of the game again. And just, like, really, like, just study it, you know, perfect my jiu-jitsu a little more. Because, you know, it's a big thing for me, the consistent learning. I feel like my purple belt has just been overdue because it's been so seasonal. So I'm going to change that. And if a fight comes up, then it comes up. If it doesn't, we'll wait for a little bit.
So that's how it goes. Like, you let come by when they want to come by, man. You just take it whenever it's ready. If opponent shows up, I got it. Yeah. So how far is purple? Like,
I'm a blue belt right now, so this is the next belt up. But see, my situation is I started out here in Beaufort under Zen Shindu, which is like a style that Will McCullough made up himself. Right. And then I went up to Iowa, earned my purple belt in Iowa because the ranking system here is completely different from everywhere else.
Right.
And then so I got to Iowa, got my blue belt, but then it was still seasonal, so I didn't get no stripes there. And then I moved to Albuquerque, and then joined Gracie's. But like they got a whole system, you know, like it's mapped out.
So every gym you go to, you got to start at the bottom again.
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, that's sucks. So you can't just be a black belt at one gym and just go to another gym. Now you got to go there. Now you got to earn your stripes at our gym.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to a certain degree. Like certain styles, because you got certain jiu-jitsu styles, and you can get black belt in any of those. But like this is the one I'm committed to, Gracie Baja. So I need to put my time and invest in that. And now that Gracie Baja is worldwide, so I can go to Australia and they got a location out there or whatever. I can go train at that gym because I'm in the system. So it's like I said, it's tracked. Everything's tracked, and it's like, all right, I'm set. So now I can move up, without having to worry about going sideways. So yeah, just consistency and staying with it.
All right. Have you done any crazy people training, like punching hot sand? Like,
no. But this one time, I'm not gonna lie, I met this Asian dude. Like for real.
I was an Asian.
Yeah, he's legit, man. I met him sitting in the sauna, and then we just started talking. But you could tell he was taught martial arts by his father and his grandfather. That's just big in Asia.
Right.
And then he had 2 daughters, so he couldn't. He was like, I couldn't teach them. And then, so you could tell upset him a little bit because he just wanted to teach, you know, and just teach. And so
his daughter could be a fighter too.
Yeah, she could, but I guess it's a different mindset over there, you know, the way they introduce it. But anyways, he started teaching me some little techniques in the dang sauna, and like I about passed out because it's getting hot.
In the sauna.
Yeah, he got me in this like squat position for like 10 minutes, and I was like, yo, I gotta sit down. But actually, it was a type of kung fu that he had like showed me and gave me a whole bunch of articles and stuff to read. And he's a really good guy, man. So that's probably the only like, you know, like fantasy like MMA stuff that you think about that I came across. But it was interesting, like nonetheless.
That's what's up, man. I mean, fighting is definitely it's cool, man. It's crazy skiing how like there's so many different styles. Oh, yeah. So like if you get into a fight, like, and that's the crazy part. Like for me, like I play football. There's only but so many ways to play football. There's not too much you can do. You know what I'm saying? When you get into an encounter with somebody on the football field, y'all get head to head. There's not so much. You can juke left, you can juke right, try to rub you. Like it's not too much. Right. But like with fighting, there's so many like. You got different styles. You got like, you know, karate, just wrestling, and you know, boxing, and then you can break off from that. And then there's so many different styles of karate and jiu-jitsu, and even boxing. You know, different styles. Somebody could be, you know, left-handed, southpaw, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just weird how like you basically got to be on guard because you don't know what anybody knows. Even if you study, you don't know what they haven't put out there yet on tape. And that's crazy to me though. That's weird. It is weird because like you think it happens like just in the ring, but like if you're walking like down the aisle at Walmart, you and somebody get in a fight, you know what I'm saying? You don't even know what they know. Right, you know right. They could be a skinny guy, but they could have trained when they was younger as kids. Mm-hmm. You never know. You know what I'm saying? Cause I got a homeboy. He was a heavyset guy now. He lost a little bit of weight now. He's in shit, but he was mostly a heavyset guy. But when he moves, you never knew. He took karate when he was younger. Oh yeah. So like his like he can kick like up there, and like you would never see it coming. Which is ridiculous, man. No. So, it's dope, man. It's real. Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, but it's nice to see you, man. I'm glad that you came by, man. Nice to have you here, man. Hopefully, man, next time you come around, man, you do something different. You can have some more to talk about, man.
Yeah, I have to bring a belt.
Yeah, man. If you could bring a belt, man, that would have been dope, man. And like I said, man, it was glad to have you here, man. And this is what I want to do. I want to have people on here that are doing successful things and, you know, either reaching their goals and within our community, because like I stated in the video, the documentary that I'm going to release me doing this whole thing, is that people, I want to let people know that there's things going on from people that are from Beaufort, or that, you know what I'm saying, that lived in Beaufort majority of their life. It's like, because I want to get away from all the negative stereotypes on Facebook that if you're in Beaufort, you can't do X, Y, Z, you can't do whatever. And my thing about that is you got to start somewhere. You know what I'm saying? If you don't think you can do it here, get somebody, become the person that lets other people do it. Yeah. And so that's what I'm doing here. You know a big radio station in Beaufort? Nah. So, exactly. You know what I'm saying? And we got enough people
Savannah.
Here. Right. You all got to go to Savannah, Charleston, Columbia, whatever. Yep. And I'm not saying we got to be big as those guys, but at least something here. Somebody, you can feel good knowing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not just waiting on, like, the Beaufort Gazette to put you in a newspaper. This is something that, like, if you're doing something positive, you could come on here and you could talk in some way. You can feel a type of a sense of accomplishment because it's like, hey, yo, I was on this radio show and I got to talk about, you know, my dream or whatever and what I was doing. Like, somebody knows what I'm doing. Okay. And from that, somebody random, somebody you probably might not even know might be excited. Or might run into you, you know, sending YouTube comments or whatever, or try to hit you up and get it going. So that's the whole thing what this is about, man.
You have to hit up CJ Cummins.
CJ Cummins, yeah, I tried to hit him up. He was one of those people I messaged. Yeah. And that's another thing too. Y'all don't know about this. It's 2 years ago that I messaged Keenan and a group of other people about doing this show. And this is how long it took me to get, because a whole bunch of things happened as far as like my finances and all that. I messaged about 2 years ago. I didn't tell him it was a radio show. He got the message. I messaged him 2 years ago about this, and I was so and it was crazy because I was so excited. Like, it was kind of like a tears of joy moment because I don't know where that notebook is at, but I wrote down a list of people that I thought like off the top of my head,
right,
that I knew was doing something
yeah,
positive and like, yo, I could interview them. You know what I'm saying? Whatever, let them tell their story. So I wrote down a list of people, probably like a page and a half.
yeah,
And I messaged them all like 2 years ago, one by one. Hey, would you be interested in doing something positive in the community, talking about your, career or whatever? And like when more than half of y'all messaged me back and was like, yeah, I would love to do it. I'd love to come on, man. It was like a tears of joy moment. And then I kind of got like sad for a moment because like I wasn't like, after a while, it's like I wasn't having everything ready.
yeah, everything.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good though, man.
So, but I finally got it
Put
together,
it out
man.
there,
Yeah, so it's dope, man. But he was one of those people I messaged a lot of, but a lot of the bigger name people, like, you know what I'm saying, like, CJ, like, he sponsored, sponsored whatever, what sponsored him. Who else did I mention that didn't, like, Ron Parker, like, these big guys like Candace, like, they didn't respond, but everybody else, like, pretty much responded and hit me back, and that was dope. So hopefully, man, they'll see this and
it's impressive, off, man. It's really impressive, bro.
Yeah, man. So I'm glad it worked out, man. But we gonna get on out of here, man. I'm glad you stopped by, man.
All right, cool. Appreciate it.
All right, man.